which I think is actually a great segue into why you are in Austin, and why I was not. I was actually, I have to admit, I was very sad. So you were at Zoho Day, and as a former analyst, Zoho Day is something I've been at for I think every year for the last 6 or 7 years. Always been a big fan of Zoho. Always been a big fan of the ethos. Always been a fan of their now former CEO. And hearing what they had to say. And one of the segue here, hopefully not too clunky, is that one of Zoho's always claimed to fame has been trying to take this complex technology stack, predominantly for the mid market and mid market and small enterprise space that they play in, and simplify it, right? And to abstract away a lot of that complexity. I think that's been one of the things they've been excellent at. Um, but there was some news, part of it being that Sridhar was stepping down as CEO. But maybe you can kind of give us the update because you were there, even though I couldn't be.
Sure. So at Zoho Day 2025, both Charlie and I have found Zoho interesting as a company because they are a full stack company in terms of their technology. So, of course, they have their CRM product, which they're best known for, but they also have their own databases. They also have their own analytics products. They also have their Zoho Creator low code programming interface. They also have their own servers and their own actual cloud, which they store all the services on. So they have everything from their own hardware all the way up to developing software and analytics, which they really upgraded last year with their 6.0 product, which brings analytics and business intelligence and data science together. Now they are adding task-specific agents. So agentic AI, we've been talking about it for months and everybody's doing it. But I think one little angle that is different from Zoho's perspective is that because they also have applications across customer relationships and payments and invoices and payroll and a number of other areas, they can they can create these agents internally that go actually work with a bunch of their own applications right off the bat, whereas a lot of these agents in other application platforms are limited because of the lack of functionality inherent in that platform. And I think it'll also be interesting to look at the level of control that Zoho has over these agents over time because they own everything from the hardware all the way on up.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be interesting. I took a few things. So obviously, for me, the big news, looking at it, was their Agentic AI announcement. And so I mentioned this Sridhar Vembu, the now former CEO. He stepped down, but he hasn't left the company. He's now their chief scientist, and he's always sort of
Right.
been the sort of spiritual center of Zoho and really kind of crafting that vision of where it was going. I do think, there was no question they had to go here. I think they have been a little bit of a laggard. They've struggled. And, in fairness, right, they're a $1 billion company competing with the likes of Salesforce that does 43 billion in revenue, Microsoft, which is what, 80 billion or something. I mean, massive, massive companies that they're competing with. And so the fact that they're even playing in the same game is a testament to their capabilities here. But it's tough, right? And so they have their AI product is called Zia, which is sort of like an overarching brand for all of their AI technology.
Mhm.
And I'd say it is largely lagged behind. It is interesting, not surprising, but it is interesting that they are effectively, I would say, following the Salesforce and now with ServiceNow's announcements last week, the ServiceNow sort of model and the Microsoft model of effectively sort of taking the ecosystem play, as you said, focusing their agentic solution on their ecosystem. I think in Zoho's case, that makes a ton of sense.
Mhm.
What I found, so from a product standpoint, from what they've announced, I mean, it's early announcement, so we don't have a lot of details with it. All makes perfect sense. I think if I was a Zoho customer, and if you don't follow Zoho, one of their big pitches is this idea of Zoho One, which is a single price for all their entire application suite. And if you are buying into the Zoho ethos and you are using a full complement of the suite, it's sort of a no-brainer, right? Because assuming they execute, you need it to do that. What I found more interesting is going back to Sridhar, who tends to think like big picture, looking at all this. He made a
Mhm.
couple of interesting comments, and I was curious if you caught it because I wasn't there, so I'm reading it from this article. But if you caught it from stage and what your reaction to it was, because on the one hand, he sort of made the case that you just made, is that because they own the full vertically integrated stack, that they're going to be uniquely positioned to effectively tune their own models and to, their head of, I forgot his name right now, but their head of AI, who's a really nice guy,
Mm-hmm.
has talked a lot about focusing more on SLMs versus LLMs and having this built for purpose sort of approach to AI. And so he sort of made apparently alluded to that as a competitive differentiator, and then proceeded to talk about the fact that agentic AI is probably not going to be something that's going to be a differentiator, that it's become so commoditized that it's going to be something that is like free, and or that you can't charge a premium for. And those two seem to be at counterpoints, right? So I agree with the second statement largely insofar as that LLMs are getting commoditized, and clearly with Symphony AI, part of our rationale, at least in our business unit, is that we're not trying to develop our own LLM for that very reason, that we're letting the big guys build and we're sort of riding on top of that. But that sort of ran counter to the first part of his statement about the competitive advantage they have with this vertically integrated stack. And so I was a little bit confused about that. I mean, what was your take on that?
Yeah, it was interesting because at on site, Sridhar was very clear about being wanting to dig more into product, wanting to dig more into uh, developing AI, and perhaps leaving some of the operational aspects of the company to his obviously capable lieutenants, now really, I guess, peers in terms of managing the company. Guys like Tony Thomas, for instance, co-founder's been there forever as well. I did get to chat with Ramprakash Ramamurthy, who's
Yeah,
their AI guy of Ramp.
the AI guy.
Yeah, yeah, while I was there. And one of the interesting things he brought up was that Zoho was also working on developing their own foundation model. I think they were kind of inspired by what DeepSeek did and saw that the price to get in and at least do some sort of perhaps model based on some of the larger open source models that already exist might be a direction that they can go in and perhaps optimize on their own hardware, or simply provide a more secure way of supporting AI. Of course, security and privacy have always been a big deal for Zoho as well, to the point that they've even created their own browser off of the Chromium browser to provide a more secure endpoint for accessing the web. So I think Zoho is really looking at trying to figure out how to own that part in that Zoho in the Zoho way.
Well, it will be interesting to see how it plays out. I think it's, at least in their sweet spot of that, mid-sized market or small to medium-sized enterprise. I think they've got lots and lots of runway. Again, particularly for those that have bought into the
Mm-hmm.
into the Zoho ecosystem. So I wish them the best with that.